Hi, I'm Dirk.
And I'm Cheryl.
We just kind of wanted to say hi, introduce ourselves. We've been singing for a long time with quartets. I was with quartet. You were with your family band for years and years and years. So we've been doing this a long time, but we kind of wanted to give you a little history of how we met. And
so it kind of seems like, I don't know, for me it seems like music has shaped our lives. I mean, if you look back over the history of our life, doesn't it seem like every phase of our life, at least for me, every major phase of our life, it's like there was kind of a song or music or something that's connected with that.
No. All right, no. I would just wonder how that would go if I said no.
To confuse you. Yeah. Anyway, move on.
Yeah, no, yeah, there's been a lot to it. Well, and music, of course, is part of our heritage, and that's kind of how we started. We've done that with, I mean, you've got a lot of music in your background, as do I. You know, my grandpa years ago played banjo on the radio, and my mother toured and sang and played piano.
Your grandpa because he played banjo.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing. And English, wasn't he English, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And played banjo.
Yeah, I never heard him play banjo. So, I know, crazy, right? I didn't even know he played banjo till way later. Right. So, yeah, very, very prim and proper, and some things that I never knew about Papa. So, that was very interesting to know that, you know, he was part of the radio, and so was my mother, of course, playing piano and singing. So, but you wanted to hear a story of how we met, right? Because
yeah, I think they like that story because we met because of music.
That's right. I was singing with the Watchman Quartet,
and I was with the Singing Bragg family,
and we were at the Great Western Quartet Convention in Fresno. That's right. Oh my gosh. I don't remember if it was the first year or the second year, but whatever. It was very early in the Great Western Quartet Convention, and I drove up early, and I set up the table, and all of a sudden everybody else in the group was gone. Right, so here I am. So I was at the table, and all of a sudden I just started grumbling, as men do sometimes, or at least me, and I was going, God, where'd everybody go? I said, oh man. And so then I was trying to just kind of set it up, and I had to get some tape, and I couldn't find anything because they were moving stuff and they just took it all out. Typically it's all out, and I'm not even the one that typically sets up the table. Just they were gone. I figured, you know what, I was there. Let me get all this done.
Well, for a convention, you're always needing a
just
little bit of extra stuff anyway.
That's right. That's right. It is, yeah. So I was kind of complaining, and then so I went, oh man! And so all of a sudden I hear out just down the hallway a little bit, and there was like maybe 2, 3, 4 booths down, and there was a, "What's wrong, sweetheart?" That's my perception of how they say. It wasn't you. It wasn't her.
There were people who know how to talk, right?
That's right. She goes, "Sweetheart." Evidently in Texas, because they were from Texas, they call everybody sweetheart. So, "Sweetheart, just what's wrong? Is there anything I can do for you?" And so I said, "Well, yes, I need to find a few things. I need tape, and I need scissors, just a few things, just kind of little things, so I can kind of trim up the booth so I can be done." Everybody else left. So she goes, "Well, I got some. You just come on over anytime you want to."
And you remember who it was, don't you?
I do.
Some people might know them. It was the Jenkins sisters.
The Jenkins sisters. That's right.
Was it Nella?
It was Nella. It was Nella. Yeah, it was Nella. So then I finished setting it up, and I brought the stuff back, and I said, "Thank you so much. That was very helpful." And she goes, "You know what? I have somebody you ought to meet." And I went, "Sure," because everybody in Southern Gospel when they know somebody you should meet. Certainly the grandparents, right?
Well,
they're always asking grandparents.
Especially once you've been single for a while in gospel music, everybody's got somebody you need to meet after a while.
Yeah, so Nella had somebody. She wanted me to meet somebody, and I said, "Well, you just let me know." And she should be here. Oh, okay. Well, that'd be great. So convention started going on, and we're back, and we were getting ready to sing, and we were going to be singing later that night, I guess. And she.
And I think I'd walked over just to say hi to him or
You
something.
did. So
That's
she
right.
called. That's when she called me
I
over.
walked over to see them because they were from Texas and friends and just
So she goes, "Oh, Dirk, come on down here. Here's that person I want you to meet." And that's how she sounded, just like that. It sounded just like that. Okay, so I went over to her and she said, "This is my friend Cheryl, and Cheryl, this is Dirk." And so we just said hello, and we exchanged some of our pleasantries. But at that point, you said,
Well, I had to get back to the
booth.
Because we had the Bragg family booth set up. And
you probably needed tape and scissors too, is probably what it was.
no, we were pretty organized.
You probably had it all. Okay, well, so yeah, that's kind of how she was then too, so it hasn't changed much. So she goes, "Well, I got to get back to our booth." And so she goes, "Well, Dirk," she goes, why don't you walk her back?" And I said, I could do that. So I extended my arm. And she said, well, she didn't say, she did that look thing. And if you could see me, she went, okay. So, which is kind of like, really? And so she said, I went, okay. And she goes, "Oh, if I took your arm and you walked me back, my daddy would have to shoot you." And so yeah. So I did walk her back. I said, "I'll tell you what, I'll just make sure you get back there okay." And
in my defense, I probably like you too, at this point in our lives, we'd had a lot of people try to set us up with other people, and I might have been slightly ornery and a little tainted.
A little ornery, yeah, you're just a little ornery. So what ended up happening? Yeah.
Apparently.
So so I followed her back to her booth and said goodbye. She says, "You know what?" She goes, "Come back a little bit later, and I'll play my banjo for you, and whatever, you come back and listen to me, and we'll talk later." So she actually was nice afterwards. But yeah, so she was a little ornery when we got there, and so we sang later that night, and you ended up sneaking in to hear, which was interesting.
I did, and I heard you sing Over the Moon. I remember that.
That's right. Well, we'll do Over the Moon some other time, won't we?
We will.
Yeah.
But I remember Over the Moon.
So that's kind of how we first met. So it was. So here's the deal. Here's kind of how it happened. After that, really, there wasn't anything to it. Okay. So the next year came along, and they moved the convention to Sacramento.
That's right.
Okay. So that particular year, it was close. Was it Palm Sunday? I want to say it was Palm Sunday weekend. The convention typically went Thursday to Saturday, I guess. Yeah. And so we went home early and so we could be back for Palm Sunday. Well, I drove up separately and helped set up the booth. And so I get there, and
now this is the next year.
This is the next year, right? Well, and something that was very interesting is that in between that, right?
Yeah, we need the in between.
Yes, we do need the in between.
You do your in between, and I'll do my in between.
So in between that, you do your in between first. You start your in between.
Your in between is probably nicer than my in between.
I'm sure it is.
I had so much fun telling my grandmother about this guy I met at a convention, and how ornery I was to him. And my grandmother went, "Cheryl, why didn't you just take his arm? Why didn't you just be nice to him?" I said, "Well, I don't know. I kind of had fun with it. I enjoyed myself." My grandmother, I think she was amused by it and mildly ashamed. But anyway, that was my year in between.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's fine. So anyway, stop touching. So. Somewhere in between there, and I don't know when it was. I want to say it was like right in the middle of like 6 months later. And it was one time. It was just all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, I had a vision of her in this dress. And I don't remember if you were holding a baby at the time, but you were just, you ended up in the vision, you ended up holding a child. And the dress, mind you, was a white dress. Now, it was not a wedding dress.
No.
But it was a white dress. And then it was gone. So I had a vision of you turning and looking, and there you were.
Was this where you get to claim to be more spiritual than me?
No.
No, okay. Because you had a vision. I was just being
Yeah, I know. so I didn't think much about it, but then it was kind of fleeting. I said, I remember her. I said, I wonder if she's going to be at convention this year, because it had changed locations, and I knew that you were from out of state. So lo and behold, as the convention came, I was there early again, because I drove separately, and I was going to drive to the guys, the manager's son, who played drums for us on special occasion, and toured with the group years before I came. And then one of the other guys who I went to church with, he was going to be in the Easter musical at the church. So the three of us were involved at this one large church in Southern California, and so we were going to drive back early so we can make sure that we were there for the morning. So at any rate, so I get there and I'm dressing up the table, putting all the stuff out, and then I turn. And I looked, and I saw the exact vision that God gave me of you. And you weren't, I don't know, maybe as far as the camera is from us now.
Probably.
Maybe just a little bit further. Because it was the same, it was just our table, aisle, table.
And I was with friends from Texas again.
That's right. Well, you were with David Patillo.
David Patillo, and
That's
I was
right.
holding Andrew, who was
a little then. Right,
Yes,
that's
he
right.
really is. He's not now.
So I had this vision of her, and what was the color of the outfit you were wearing?
It was white.
That's right, and you were holding a
Baby.
child. That's
Yes,
right.
Yes, he was a baby then.
Yeah. So that's kind of it was, and I went, I look up and I said, yeah, that's funny. And so I walked over to her, and I just kind of put my arm on her, and I said, I don't know if you'll remember me. I said, and before I finished, she turned and looked, and she had that look.
And I said, I remember being honored to you, and I enjoyed it.
No, you
I
loved it.
I loved it.
You said you loved
That's
being
right.
honorary, and I couldn't believe it. I went, really? So then, as far as I was concerned, the gloves were off. So, because now I was with the Washman Quartet. Our manager, Dennis Zimmerman, wrote for the Singing News. He wrote Pacifically Speaking for many, many years. So we knew a lot of people on the West Coast. So when we were over there at the convention, at the hotel the next morning, I saw several people who I knew, and they were fans as well. And I said, do me a favor. What I'd like you to do is around the corner from us, not across, because that's where David Patillo was, but I found where they were, and they had a big orange sign. Okay,
Some of y'all remember this, the big orange bragging about Jesus.
That's right.
Stickers were everywhere.
So they were around the corner with us, and so I said, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go over, and I said, I want you to find her. Now, I already saw how she operated in Fresno the year before. It's kind of like when people walk by, she would jump out, tackle them, and say,
tackle them.
Almost.
Well, no, I was just making friends with them.
So she goes, would you like to hear? Actually, okay, so she didn't. But she was kind of like the face man, right? So she'd go out and say, would you like to listen to some music? And they had Walkman and other things like that, and played their CDs and have them put it on.
That was fancy at the time.
Yes, it was.
It wouldn't be now, but then it was pretty cool.
So she would be the one, and I said, okay, there's going to be this little blonde girl. She's going to come out. She's going to ask you to listen to their music. And then she's probably going to do some small talk. And she's probably going to say something about, so, who's one of your favorite groups? Because I just learned that about you in the little bit of time that we spent together. That's kind of how you would go about things. So she did. So she would ask, and I said, now, when she says, who do you like the most, or who's one of your favorite groups, whether you like me or not, please just tell them the Washman Quartet. And so they did, evidently. So they said, okay. So I come to find out. So later that night, I went. It was late in the evening. It was probably about 10 o'clock. I mean, so I waited for some of the concert to go by. I waited for the doors to be open and the booths to be filled, and evidently they would go over. And I said, now, when she says, who's your favorite group, and you say the watchman, she will probably then say, I know someone from the Watchman Quartet. And as soon as they do, I want you to have this look of surprise, like, now I know who you are. And so like a light bulb going up over your head and kind of go, you must be the one who broke Dirk's heart.
That was brutal.
It was. So,
Yeah.
evidently, there was several people who did that. They went over and she asked them to listen to music. Yeah, well, you were. So,
yeah.
so then she'd say, and she pretty much followed the script. I couldn't have written it any better, really, because you just kind of followed it and did what you did.
Yeah,
And
I did.
so I went over later that night, like I said, and I went over to Mama, and so
Mama liked you.
so I walked.
Apparently.
So I walked up to Mama, and Cheryl turned and she saw me, kind of did a double take, and she did one of these. One of those, the eyeballs with bullets and arrows and all sorts of sharp, pointy things coming out at them, come towards me. And so I just looked at Mama, and I looked at her, and I just smiled. And I smiled at Cheryl as I saw her veer back at me, and I said, so how am I doing, Mom? And she looked at me, she goes, "Aw, you are doing so good, honey. You are doing so good." And I said, well, that's all I wanted to hear. I said, have a good night. And I left. And she was like, what? So,
You used an approach nobody had ever used before. I've got to say that about you.
yeah. Well,
It's
and so-
creative.
well, we were only there, like I said, I left early, and we
Yeah.
weren't singing the last night. So, I did talk to you the next
Yes, you
night.
did.
And I said, okay, well,
By
I'm
the
leaving,
next
so I'm
night,
going
I
to be
cooled
good.
down a little. I was slightly impressed with you, but I wasn't quite sure about you yet.
Well, but you did give me your phone
I
number
did
to
give you
call
permission.
you.
I did. I sure
And
did.
so she said, well, give me a call. It'll be a while. We're gonna take, we're still on tour, so we won't be home for a little bit. So that's kind of how that all happened, So, all right, so you may have noticed that we faded into her actually having a guitar because we wanted to share the first song that I ever sang for Cheryl, and it wasn't long after we started talking. So I guess let's give it a shot. Little surfer, little one, make my heart come undone. Do you love me? Do you, surfer girl? I have watched you on the shore, standing by the ocean's roar. Do you love me? Do you, surfer girl? We could ride the surf together while our love would grow. In my woody, I would take you everywhere I go. So I say, from me to you, I will make your dreams come true. Do you love me? Do you, surfer girl?
I still love that.
All right. Thanks for joining us. Hope to see you again soon.
And our music plays today because it's in the genes. Because it's in the genes. Because it's in the genes.